The Seattle Sounders' brand new 2025 kit is here. Inspired by two traditional Southern Coast Salish weaving techniques, twilling and twinning. These techniques, passed down through generations, honor the resilience, deep-rooted ties, and creativity that define the cultural fabric of this region. The striking deep blue jersey will be worn by the Sounders for the next 2 seasons to honor the club's deep connection with the Puget Sound and shared responsibility as stewards of the greater Salish Sea watershed. Backing up that commitment, the Seattle Sounders will donate up to $50,000 to benefit community charities around the Puget Sound region. To get your very own Salish Sea kit, visit lobbingscorchers.com/kit. That's lobbingscorchers.com/KIT.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Under the Lights. Got a great show for you all planned here this evening. The Seattle Sounders are back home. They are in the city of Seattle. The road trip is over, and they will be returning to Lumen Field on Saturday against FC Dallas. We're going to be bringing back friend of the show, Sam Hale of the FC Dallas Radio Network, FC Dallas Agenda podcast, to preview that match. I think one of our first, if not our first returning guests, if you don't count Jeremiah Oshan, which that's cheating. Excited to welcome Sam back in a couple minutes here. And then later on, we're going to be talking some Club World Cup, a couple of news items regarding the Club World Cup that affect the Seattle Sounders, including a special transfer window that all Club World Cup teams will be granted to potentially add to their rosters before the tournament. We've got a financial dispute, apparently, as per the Seattle Times. Shout out Jada Evans. The Sounders players are apparently none too pleased with how the participation money is going to be divided up. We're going to talk about that. We're going to be reacting to some Brian Schmetzer sound. Schmetz talked at practice yesterday, so we're going to play his interview and give takes on that. Maybe some Christian Roldan sound later. And as always, I'll let you guys steer the ship a little bit. If you've got questions, comments, topics that you want me to hit, go ahead and drop them in chat, and I'll get to as many as I can. But first, let's get started by previewing this upcoming FC Dallas match at Lumen Field on Saturday, noon Pacific kickoff, which is kind of weird. I'm going to bring him to the stage right now. We have got Sam Hale. He hosts the FC Dallas Agenda podcast. He also does written content covering FC Dallas on the Toros Talk Substack. Returning guest, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time again to join us here this evening and talk some Seattle Sounders versus FC Dallas. Feels like we just did this a few weeks ago because we did. How's it going? How is life on the FC Dallas beat, Sam?
Oh, Ari, that is you're asking us that after a long night of Open Cup that ends in PKs after some, let's call it questionable officiating decisions. It's been better. I'll tell you, it's been better, but you know, it beats digging ditches. I always try to comp it with, even when the times are bad, we get to cover soccer and cover some of the best athletes in the world. So it could always be worse. Even when it's bad, it could always be worse.
That's a good way to look at it. I try and give myself the same perspective during times where Seattle's not playing super well. But let's start right there. Sam, these two teams played in April, a 1-0 win for Seattle at Toyota Stadium. And since then, it's been a bit of a rocky road for FC Dallas. There was what I would call the signature win of the Eric Quill era so far at Miami, that 4-3 over Lionel Messi and the Barca boys. But let's talk about that Open Cup game right there, because I honestly don't actually know exactly what happened. I'll tell you what I know, which is that 2-2 in regulation, FC Dallas falls to New York Red Bulls 4-3 on PKs. So I didn't really see what happened in the game, but I did catch a little bit of Eric Quill's post-game press conference before I hopped on here, and he seemed emotional about what had transpired. He was very complimentary of his team's effort and said that he felt like the way he was talking about it sounded like he felt like his team got robbed in a way, and that they took a negative result that they should have won, perhaps. Give us the backstory on what transpired at I think it's Sports Illustrated Stadium now, not Red Bull Arena. What transpired at Sports Illustrated Stadium for FC Dallas that led Eric Quill to give, I wouldn't call it a blazing hot presser after the game, but he was definitely emotional.
Yeah, no, you'll know blazing hot when you see it. I promise. I've seen blazing hot on the training ground and behind closed doors. Like you'll know it when you see it. I promise. But that was pretty warm from Eric Quill, and to back him up on a lot of ways, it was a really good performance from the team. People will look at the stat sheet and see 6 shots, 4 on target, and go, "That's not a very good offensive night." And I don't think it tells the whole story. The game ends up hinging on a couple moments, specifically 90th plus 3rd minute. Dallas is up 2-1 after Lucho Acosta puts in a legit all-time Open Cup goal using what some have described as a double backwards Cruyff turn into roofing a net keeper. If you haven't seen it, go check out the highlights, because it's hard to describe it, except it's just really freaking cool. But Dallas is up 2-1. They have to see out 4 minutes of stoppage time. New York is on the attack. They're coming up into that attacking third. And then right outside the 18-yard box, Raheem Edwards takes an absolute dive over, I believe it's Paxton Pomacall, who's trying to defend him. I mean, the dude just flails out, and the official calls a free kick right there. She calls a foul and gives a free kick. And to Paramount Plus's credit, they show the replay, and you can see the guy is out there trying to win an Oscar. But it doesn't matter. So Emil Forsberg, who didn't start this game but came off the bench, I believe it was in the 65th or right around that area, he lines up. Dallas has, I believe, a 5 or 6 man wall. He hits it, and then Ramiro, the defensive midfielder, for some reason, I don't know what spirit told him to jump and turn. So he turns his body, and it ricochets off his arm and skitters past Martin Paz. So with 1 minute in stoppage time, it's 2-2. Dallas, who has actually played really well to keep Red Bull off the charts, is forced into 30 minutes of extra time. And then in that extra time, there's a moment where Ramiro is actually sent off, which was the correct decision, but there's no VAR in this match. The initial call was just a foul in almost that exact same position. But Ramiro was sent off literally 3 minutes later after the fourth official and the lead referee have basically a conference. It's this weird 3-minute just dead zone that exists. So he's sent off. That doesn't end up affecting. They're able to see out the extra time. They go to penalties, and then Lucho tries to Panenka AJ Marcucci, and it hits the top of the crossbar. And instead of going bar down over the line, it goes bar down and it bounces out, and that ends up being the decider. Pedrinho misses the 5th penalty kick, but if Lucho makes that, but the officiating, I think there ended up being something like 40 fouls called across on. It was really some really light yellow cards and then some not really well called. It was just we could spend a time talking about U.S. officiating, because I was not on the bandwagon of it being bad before, but I'm starting to kind of see what people's points are, that the quality's not where it's up to be. But Quill was right. There's plenty of times when FC Dallas has not deserved to win and they've lost, and that's fair. But last night they 100% should have come away with it, and they ended up, partially through refereeing and partially through just some weird decision making, are out of the tournament. And it sucks, because they did play really well. They found some patterns they've been looking for a while. They found, they get a wonder goal from their best player, Lucho Acosta, and they still can't win. They just must be banging their heads against the locker room wall going, what do I have to do to figure this out? And I know that, Quill is frustrated, because they're all frustrated, but credit to him for stepping right up to the line of what he wanted to say, but not saying it. Although I wouldn't have blamed him. He's like, screw it. I'll pay the fine. I just want to inspire my guys.
The magic of the U.S. Open Cup. That's certainly a tough one, especially because those trips out to the thriving metropolis of Harrison, New Jersey, it's never an easy road trip, and to put in a performance like that, and then the bounces don't go your way at the very end. How would you, I guess, more broadly characterize FC Dallas's form since that Seattle match. Like I mentioned, there was that big win at Inter Miami, which that was honestly underratedly one of the games of the MLS season so far. But that gets followed up with a difficult multi-goal defeat in San Diego, which the Seattle Sounders can relate to that. They do that to teams at Snapdragon Stadium sometimes. And it feels like maybe the win got taken out of the sails a little bit since that Miami game. What's been going on with the team, and what would you attribute this recent kind of rough run of form to?
To your point, Dallas has actually never won at the former Red Bull Arena. They're 0 wins, 11 losses, 3 draws. So, yes, it is a very tough outing place for them, including last night's Open Cup. And, man, consistency has really struggled for this team, especially post San Diego. So, like, the Miami game was absolutely the high point. I mean, that's a game where they went down 3-1, and we were broadcasting the game, and we were just going, we don't know how to get back into it. And then full credit to Quill. He pulls a 3-4-3 out of his, I don't know where he pulled that out of, and I don't want to know, but he just did it, and they were able to get 3 goals on the board. And we were watching Messi sip yerba mate, wondering what happened. And, yeah, we kind of thought that was going to be the moment that really launched. I mean, Quill even called it a win of the century or something like that. Win for the ages was what he called it. But then they walked into San Diego and just got mollywopped when they tried to run the 3-4-3 back out there. And it was interesting when we talked to Quill the week before that San Diego game. He's like, yeah, we're going to try the 3-4-3. We want to see if it's just a fluke or if it's something we can use or what it is. And credit to him in his postgame. He said, yeah, we shouldn't have started it. We didn't train it enough. It's an adjustment. It's not a start. It's a change-up pitch. It's not a fastball pitch. But I think one of the things that Dallas has really struggled with, even as they've gotten healthier, they've gotten Paxton Pomykal back. They're getting Marco Farfan back. He played a good amount. Sebastian Leget's not far away at this point. But they're just struggling to find – and they lost Petter Musa for a month with a rolled ankle. That might have actually been the Seattle game, if I'm not mistaken, where he went out. It was a home game, if I remember correctly. But they've struggled to find consistency on offense, and specifically what they want their offensive structure to be. Because for a while it was, okay, we got Lucho, we got Musa, they'll figure it out. Everything else, don't worry about it. Like it's kind of like in Ted Lasso. Give it to Zava. Zava takes all free kicks. They're like, Lucho and Musa, give it to them. They'll figure it out. But as we know, that's not a sustainable method in a non-FIFA soccer game. Like, you've got to play a real, or EA Sports FC, I guess, if we're being dorky now. Like, so that they lacked any sort of real pattern of play. Like, if you watch their games, there was about a stretch of 3 or 4 where I go, I don't know what to say about the offense because I don't know what I'm watching at this moment. Like, if a team wants to play like when Carnell started at St. Louis, they played direct route one. That's what they're going to do. So I can judge that. You watch like what Columbus and Cincinnati did and Hell is Real. You can see exactly what they want to do. And like, you can judge based off that. These are coaches with systems and understandings of what they want to do. And it's in the case of the last 2, they've built rosters around it. With Dallas, I think they're struggling to combine the roster they have with what they can do pattern of play and structure wise. And I think the best thing that Dallas could do, and I wrote about this in the context of Lucho Acosta, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, pick one. Pick something. Pick anything. Do you want to play a tiki-taka game? Play a tiki-taka game. You want to play, wing play where you send it up wide in the channels and send it in? Do that. Pick something. Pick anything. I don't even really care what it is. Invent something new and pick that. But pick something that you could say, this is what we're doing. We're going to do it consistently regardless of opponent. And then we're going to pick a formation that fits our talent. And if you can't do what we want you to do, we will find someone else to do that, either on our team existing or in the transfer window. Dallas, I don't think and I don't think that's going to happen because Quill has said multiple times, in his opinion, tactical flexibility is the key to his game. He wants to be very flexible in his tactics and how he plays. And I get that. And on one level, I'm like, okay, I hear you. That's a very modern, positionless basketball way to think. But when your offense, regardless of formation, ends up where you're stuck right in the middle of the 18-yard box and you can't score goals because teams are just running a low block or a mid block right in that zone 14, I don't care if you run out a 911. Like, it's not going to matter. You'll have to call 911 because you're going to lose a lot of games and need help. But, like, and we've seen the team succeed when they get out wide, when they use guys like Shaq Moore and even Lucho Acosta out wide. And, when they get Marco Farfan back in full tune, which could be as soon as against Seattle, we'll see. Like, we could see some of that come back. But, their defense is largely fine. Osaze Urgide remains a god. And Nolan Norris has become one of the most undercover good stories at left back, a 20-year-old who 3 coaching staff said he wasn't good enough to play. Dallas had to play him at left back because that's what he plays for the U20 national team. And Farfan was out for 6 weeks with compartment surgery. So he went out there and he just turned into a capable MLS left back right in front of our very eyes. And without the speed of one, is he a best 11? No. But, and you've got Lalas Abubakar has been really good. Shaq Moore has been really good. But if they could just figure out their offensive patterns of play, just create a couple plays that they could do and just frustrate other teams and make it just a little bit harder to defend instead of just park your back line and your midline in front of the 18-yard box line, they'd probably have a couple more wins or at least a couple more points.
Nolan Norris, that's a good shout for me because I've been writing the Young Players of the Week for MLSsoccer.com, where I go around the league and pick out the standout. Our criteria is you have to be under 22. And so there's invariably a few FC Dallas candidates in there, but I think Nolan Norris has made the cut at least once. But that's interesting to hear that he's actually emerging as a week in, week out starter there. Sam, I was going to wait to get into our next topic, but we did get a question about it in chat. I
see this question. So I'm very excited to talk about it.
Let's just do it now. Are you ready for the Jesus Ferreira discourse?
We
can do the Jesus Ferreira discourse. That's why people come to this channel, is for the Jesus Ferreira discourse. So let's give it to them. I mean, I can give you just the general update on how the Jesus Ferreira experience is going in the city.
It'll probably take you longer than me giving you the Leo Chu update. Mine is
okay. We got this question from Jake in chat, so let's just start with this. He asks, recently I heard Dallas is shopping Leo Chu. I'm wondering, knowing what he knows now, if Sam Hale would undo the Leo Chu or Jesus Ferreira deal. Both players are having their own struggles at the clubs. Sam, what do you think of that?
Short answer, no. I absolutely would not. Long answer, the reason why, it's not because obviously neither player has found their zenith at their new club. Chu, the short answer for him is he's hurt again, and we don't know exactly when he's coming back. We don't really know exactly what's wrong with him, but he's been hurt right as he was starting to really find some trust with the manager and the coaching staff. He gets hurt through no fault of his own, apparently, and just has been out of the lineup. Otherwise, I think he'd be the opposite winger in the 4-2-3-1 that Quill wants to play. Even with that being said, I wouldn't undo the trade because it's not so much about the on-field for that. It was time for Jesus to go, and he was becoming, the saying, more trouble than he's worth. Even though Jesus Ferreira is a very talented player, I would still back him to find his form one day. It just wasn't working in Dallas anymore. It was time, 8 years was long enough. The locker room was maybe not as accepting of him as it probably would have been before. I think his, the way that he was playing probably played into that, but I can't speak to that explicitly. But the trade had to happen regardless of what Dallas got back from Seattle, because he needed to move on, regardless of where he went, whether it was Seattle, whether it was Miami, whether it was Russia. It doesn't matter where he went. So would I undo it? No, because first off, I can't imagine him and Lucho playing together. That fries my brain circuits, because that would be, I legit think the team would be worse, even though it would be more talented. It would be a worse team, in my, very humble opinion. To his initial comment, we have heard that before about Chu. In fact, we heard that when he first got here, that he wasn't even going to be here that long, that there was teams in Brazil that wanted to bring him home for as much as like $4 million in a transfer. That did not happen, clearly, considering the fact that he is still in America. It still could happen when the window opens in July. Hard to believe you'd get that much money for him at this point, considering he's played like 4 games and has been fine in all those games, despite playing out of position. But no, I wouldn't undo the trade at all. I don't. I think there will come a day when Jesus Ferreira will play in an FC Dallas jersey again, but I don't want it. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think that's going to be like when he's
end of his career.
Yeah, like 30, 31, 32, when he's still an MLS regular, but is not the guy that he like the superstar. And you do the full circle thing where you come back to the club, you retire with that club, even if it's just for a 1-day deal where he retires with FC Dallas, which I think would be fair, unless he just goes on to mega stardom somewhere in the world, which can't rule it out. But no, I would not undo the trade because I just don't. I think even first off, he's kind of your problem now. Like that's part of it. But the other part is I would rather take the project that Dallas is embarking upon. I would rather do it without Jesus and with the group they have and some of the guys coming up from the academy than I would with him here trying to figure out the budget of it, just the roster construction of it. Like, because that's as much of this problem as it was anything about the personnel. You clearing salary room while you're renovating the stadium, bringing in kind of a different type of player, a different mindset player than Jesus. So, I know that's probably not so super surprising, or maybe it is to Seattle fans. I'm kind of curious, but I would not undo the trade at all. Sorry, y'all are going to be you're going to be stuck with him. And if I'm the world GM, you're stuck with him.
Well, I'll just give you the update on how it's been going out here, and you can tell me what you think of this, because it's what I would say is still a polarizing topic. If you ask a certain segment of the Sounders fan base how it's been going with Jesus Ferreira this season, they'll tell you it's been just an absolute zero, total bust. He's brought nothing to the table, and that the trade was like a horrible decision. I would not characterize it as such. I've been describing it as more of a mixed bag. I think he's had more than a few genuinely good moments as a facilitator. He does have 7 assists, all comps, 5 in MLS play. So it's not been a like total bust, but he has 0 goals still. And I think the concerning thing about the fact that he hasn't scored isn't the goose egg in itself as much as it is that he's not even taking shots. Like, he doesn't look close to scoring. So for whatever he's brought as a facilitator, you bring this guy in with 50 plus MLS goals. You expect him to have scored a goal by now. I think he will eventually. I would be pretty surprised if he got the season on a goose egg. But it seems like the best success that they've had with him so far is, like I said, as a facilitator. And it was funny going into this Portland game this last weekend. There's a lot of debate as to how they should line it up, especially with it being on a short week and how they rotated and got blown out at LAFC. But I certainly did not think that they would start Ferreira in that game, just because it hasn't clicked yet this season, and you have a huge derby game. I thought that they would go with a Paul Rothrock or a Pedro de la Vega at that spot. But they started Jesus in the Portland game. So we're sitting there like, okay, you couldn't have a much bigger spot than this to be running this lineup with Albert Rusnak, who the storyline this year, like you mentioned about Lucho and Jesus playing together, fries your brain. I mean, that has been what it's been like at times when they've played together, with him trying to play with a pure number 10. Hasn't exactly worked yet. So I think skeptical is the word that I would use when I saw that lineup. And then in practice, I thought the offense worked okay. They got a good goal in the first half with that setup. Rusnak got the goal, and it did feel like they weren't in each other's space as much. But you can't watch it, and you can't help but feel like you're playing a guy as a winger that's not a winger, and you're not getting the most out of his skills when he's playing out wide there, as you would be when we've seen a lot better moments when he's played centrally. There was a game against Nashville SC earlier this year where Rusnak was out with an injury, and they gave Ferreira reign over that 10 position, and that was his best game in Seattle. I thought he was pretty sharp that game. He looked pretty dangerous throughout. He got 2 primary assists, and the team won 3-0. So that was a data point where I was like, okay, that's genuinely encouraging. He got on the stat sheet. The team played well. They scored 3 goals. All right, maybe we're cooking with something here. But I would say that this last Portland game, despite a decent, adequate attacking showing while he was out there in terms of some of the build-up play they had, the counterattacks, and actually getting a goal, that felt like it was better. But then if I'm assessing his performance individually, it did not feel like he was even that close to as influential as they would hope or need him to be. So, I mean, I don't know. When you hear that, Sam, do you think that there's a world where his biggest role is just as the assists guy and he puts up 0 goals, like 12 assists? Is that a valid role for him, or just what do you think of what I'm telling you here?
Well, if we're saying, because there's 2 questions there. If we're saying there's a world, absolutely there is, because Seattle has so much talent around Jesus that I think it wouldn't surprise me if that came to pass. Is it a valid role? I don't know, because I think it's one of those things. It's you're colored by perspective and history. Like let's just say you brought him in, like say he was like Ryan Kent, who had never played a game in MLS before, and you brought him in, and all you knew was like, he posted those numbers in a foreign league that he had never played in MLS. You'd probably be a little bit more okay with it, but since you knew that like he has dominated MLS before, I mean, legit Golden Boot contender, MVP level contender at his highest point, you're looking at this and going, okay, this is kind of fine. But at the same time, you're going, but I know you can do this other stuff. So why aren't you doing the other stuff? So I would say I completely understand the frustration of Sounders fans, because because 7 assists this far in the season is not a bad number of assists. In fact, it's kind of a high number, for
exactly.
Player, really.
It's definitely not.
If you had even 1 goal, you'd probably feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's real curious, and I'm really interested to see, because I fully believe, and I said this I think on the first time I came on, and I said it when the trade happened. If there's a coach that's going to figure it out, it's a guy like Brian Schmetzer, because I have a lot of respect for him as a guy that understands how to get a lot out of his players and arrange things and just get good soccer out of the people he has around him. And he's clearly figured out part of this. It just seems like maybe it's going to take a little time to figure out the other part of it. I'm really curious how this works. Obviously, y'all lost Paul Arriola for the year with an ACL tear, which is honestly one of the biggest bummers in Major League Soccer this year, that broke our hearts even down here. But those two have a really interesting chemistry because they played together for 3 years here. And I wonder how much losing him and what he can do, and just his ability to be able to 1-2 with Jesus, because he assisted on a few of Jesus's goals in 22, hurt as well. But even so, great players should always be able to play with great players. I don't think this is going to end up his lot in life. I think he will score at least once. And he has to, because right now Leo Chu has 1 goal. Jesus Ferreira has 1 goal. If I told you by the time we got to late
Jesus
May,
Ferreira has 0 goals.
Yeah, Jesus Ferreira has 0 goals. My mistake. I gave him 1 more than he has. Like, if I had told you by the time the second derby between these 2 teams comes together that Jesus Ferreira would not have as many goals as Leo Chu, you'd probably have gone either Leo Chu has become an MVP candidate or something has gone terribly wrong. And I guess that kind of tells you where we're at right this minute.
There are more stats up that way. I mean, Nuhu has got more goals this year than
dear.
Ferreira. So I mean, I don't know. I've been saying that I still think that with this much of the season left to go, they can figure out a way to get him on the score sheet more than 0. But we'll see. Maybe he's just the point guard. Maybe he's just the assist guy. I don't know.
Yeah, but even point guards make shots once in a while.
Yes, exactly.
Just give him 1.
So I don't know. Sam, when you're looking at this road trip for FC Dallas, I mean, like you mentioned, this is we were talking about it before we started recording. I feel like every MLS club is going through it right now with just the travel and the fixture congestion. The schedule has been crazy lately. There's been a lot going on, but FC Dallas has about as tough a situation as it gets right now. You had the Open Cup on Wednesday in Harrison, New Jersey, and then short rest all the way back across the country to Seattle. I mean, that is not easy. When you have a travel situation as crazy as that, how does it affect how you think about the next game in terms of hopes and expectations? Like, is this one of those games where you're basically just like you take a draw standing up and get out of there, even if it's a little ugly or 0-0? Or do you think FC Dallas is at a point where they really need a win to change the vibes and they can't afford to look at it like that?
So the best way I can describe it rhetorically is if you've watched a horror movie where the main character is like covering their eyes as they open the door, and and they're not sure what's behind the door. That's kind of how this feels right now, because they're going to deal with Seattle on Saturday, come home, fly to Cincinnati, and which is its own kettle of fish. I mean, Pat Noonan's got that team up and moving, and they're well drilled, and it'll be the Lucho Acosta revenge game. So God knows what's going to happen there. But yes, absolutely, especially when the team is going to go, across country, 3 times in a giant triangle. And they had to play 120 in New Jersey, and they're going to get minimal time to rest. They're going to change 3 time zones, and also just Lumen Field's a house of horror for these guys. They have 1 win since Seattle's been playing in Lumen Field. So am I worried? Hell yeah, I'm worried. There's no other way to put it. I am very concerned, and considering how last year's fixture went up there, when Dallas was up, I believe it was either 2-1 or 2-0, and then Jordan Morris puts us to the sword at the end and y'all win 3-2 in what looked to be the game that was going to turn everything around for Peter Luxon, and then it didn't, as it didn't end up getting the full-time job. Yes, I am very concerned about the travel. I'm concerned about the stadium. Just walking into that place scares me to death, because I don't know what's going to happen. Except I do. They're probably going to either draw or lose. Would I take a draw? Oh, my God. If you offered me a draw right now, I would take it. And would it be the best thing for the team? No, a win would be the best thing for many reasons. In fact, Quill said before the home game, the home fixture for this in Frisco, he wants to get rid of the Seattle boogeyman feel. He said it's been that way since I was at the club the first time. But at the same time, he goes, we just got to get rid of it. It's not a positive thing for the club. It's something that the players have to work hard to get rid of. And I'm like, yes, you're 100% right, however, that's easier said than done. I don't know if they're going to bring some sage or what they're going to do, sacrifice a chicken, whatever it takes. I'm here for it. I'm here to listen. But if you told me right now you're going to get a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw, or even a 0-0 draw, I would probably take it, because getting points on the road is the key. And Dallas has gotten so many points already on the road. Adding to that total would be really nice, especially considering that you've got another big challenge in 4 days against Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing about FC Dallas's season so far is that the road form has actually been quite good, and it's the home form where it seems like a lot of the points have been dropped. Is that just one of those random variance things, or is there something about how the squad is playing that lends itself to traveling well? How do you see that?
So I think some of it, as we get a little bit of hindsight to some of these games, I think we're finding out that part of it is the opponents. One of those losses was to Vancouver. Well, Vancouver might be the best team in the league right now, so
might be the best team ever.
Could be. I mean, they could be the Champions Cup winners. I really like Vancouver to watch. I hate to play them. I hate that we have to play them again, because it's going to be very terrible. But Chicago is starting to find their feet under Greg Berhalter. You got to draw against Real Salt Lake. That's, obviously lost to Seattle. Seattle's always been a problem. You lost to Houston. That's probably, I would argue, the worst one so far. I know people will say the Chicago loss, the way it happened, was worse, but I hate losing to Houston so much. It sucks so much. And to do it where your offense just looked like butt the entire time, we had no width, no chances, and just, I would say that there's just been really your lot in life has not been great at home. Your only home wins in MLS play has been against Kansas City. And I think we all agree Kansas City is not good. Even, they fired Peter Vermees. Things are not good in Kansas City. God bless them. But so I think it's not as I think right this minute, yes, they do play bad at home, but I also think if you look at their home fixtures, it's not been as easy as we thought it might be. With Vancouver being supernova, Chicago being better, Salt Lake being competent, Houston, and that's a rivalry game, so throw out the record books. If they keep going through the summer months where they get some relief from some of these, some easier matches coming up, I think we may have a pattern to establish. But I'm not totally. I know it's a thing. I just can't quite figure out why. We know it's a bad thing. We just need to figure out exactly what the problem is. And I think right now I'm willing to chalk it up to really hard opponents and weird situations. I don't think I have a full-fledged theory as yet, but we're kind of building some evidence together at this moment.
How emptied would you say the tank was in New York for this Open Cup game? I'm wondering how it could affect how FC Dallas lines it up this weekend. Lucho Acosta obviously played the full game. Do you think he's going to play? And how much, if any, rotation do you think FC Dallas is going to employ in this game? With Pitar Musa is still out for this, correct?
So I can confirm Lucho Acosta will not play in this game, but not the reason for you think. He's suspended for this game because he picked up a yellow card against Houston, and he's on a yellow card accumulation, so he will not play.
Oh, no way! I didn't know that.
Yes. We were lamenting that. At the end
we bring the good news here.
Yeah. Well, one man's good news is another man's kick to the groin, but I feel you there. But no, so Lucho will not play. That's why he played the 120 minutes in Harrison.
Got it.
Because Eric Quill is very much like most football managers. When your guy's not going to play next game, you run him into the ground because you know you're going to get a modified break. Luckily, it looks like he will be available for Cincinnati, which is going to be storyline rich. Just you can feel the juices of storyline there. Musa played 90 minutes in against the Red Bulls. He came out for extra time. Yeah, he's back. He came back against Salt Lake. He came in for a sub appearance. He played 45 against Houston. He went the full 90 against Red Bull. And so I would imagine, I don't know if he's got 90 in him after that. We'll see. He's a tough sumbitch, I got to say. He is one of those that when he gets out there, he's a gamer. And he's a big, strong ox, moose, whatever you want to call him, of a man. He is literally built different. I'm talking physically built different. He is a giant human being, and he's tough as a rock. You saw that ankle where he rolled it pretty bad. He came back after a month. I would imagine, I'm not saying this with any sort of level of knowledge, that he would play maybe not 60 or maybe not 90, but I think they'll be a little judicious with the turf. I could see him playing 60 and then Farrington coming in for 30. As far as the rest, God, I don't even know, because I imagine, because Paxton Pomacco played about 60 against New Jersey. That's the most he's played. I imagine they'll be a little judicious about him playing on turf. So I don't think he'll start quite yet. I would imagine we could see this could be the Marco Farfan return start, because Nolan played a decent amount on and has played a lot lately. I could see this maybe being where they rest Osaze Urugide and give Sebastian Biaga and Lala Sabubakar a chance. I see in the chat asking about Leggett. I don't believe Leggett's on this trip, so I don't believe he would be back for this game, although he's probably going to be back soon. That could be maybe as soon as Philadelphia, but I would expect, if not Philadelphia, probably that first game back after the international window in June on the 14th. I don't think Leggett will. If he does, it would be a bit of a surprise. They do a magic trick and pop us a Du Bois in there. I do think we see someone like Bernard Kamungo get some extensive time. I wouldn't be surprised if Anderson Julio runs back out there. I truly, with Quill, you don't really know, because he is unafraid to just go out there and throw his guys back out. He talks about, we want to be conscious, we want to be consistent with these guys' bodies, but he's not afraid to charge forward if he feels like he's got a mission. If the guys feel good and they tell him that, he'll go with it. He's a player's coach in that way. He wants his guys out there. He talks about warrior mentality and all that sort of thing. So I imagine this is an opportunity, if you're a player, young or old, if you're willing to show up and show out and get out there and do your thing, you could probably earn yourself some brownie points in the Coach Quill handbook.
No Lucho Acosta in this game for FC Dallas, out with yellow card accumulation. I did not know that. I'm just learning that right now, and I got to say, not that upset about it to not
Don't
be
hate that.
facing off
Don't
with
hate
Lucho
that.
Acosta, one of the most talented, most dynamic players in Major League Soccer. Sam, when this team has to play without Lucho, which I'm sure you've seen at least several times this season, what is the game plan revert to? Obviously, it's got to change quite a lot. Who are the guys that we need to watch in his absence, and who kind of gets tasked with carrying that creative load when he can't play?
So funny you mentioned that. Lucho has actually been one of the more consistent performers in arriving on the pitch. As of 2 weeks ago, he had the third most minutes of any FC Dallas player. The only two players that had more than him were the two center backs, Osaze Uragide and Sebastian Ibiaga at that point, were the only two players that had, Martin Paz. Martin Paz and Osaze Uragide had the most minutes for FC Dallas. He was third on that, and the third and the most of a non-defender or goalkeeper. So he has actually been very healthy, even though apparently he is dealing with some sort of ankle knock, which hopefully will heal up now that he doesn't play against Seattle, or at least feel a little bit better before the Cincinnati trip. But to your actual question, it's probably going to be the Pedrinho show. And for Tacoma Defiance fans who watched the NTSC Tacoma game last year in the playoffs, Pedrinho is a bit of a wizard. He is a high ceiling, low floor type player who is incredibly clever. He is a Brazilian, which I think gives an idea in and of itself of what he can do. I imagine if Quill wants to play the 4-2-3-1 or whatever formation he rolls out there, that 10 spot will be occupied by Pedrinho. He has really impressed Quill over the last month or so. He has kind of come in as that creative playmaking 10 wing, kind of almost, just offensive playmaker. So if you're looking, and he didn't play that much against the Red Bulls. He came in as a substitute, so he'll be relatively fresh in that. So in that same way, I think he'll get the start in Lucho's place. If they just run out the box standard 4-2-3-1, Pedrinho will be the 10, and he's a high effort on both ends guy. He's not afraid to run. He's good for one or two. Just how did he do that moments a game? That doesn't mean that they're going to be goals or assists. It may just be a really clever pass, a really good take on or step over, or just some sort of Brazilian soccer nonsense that I can't comprehend. But that's going to be the guy that will take over the Lucho spot, I assume. I think his relationship with guys like Bernie Kamungo will be interesting because they played some together in NTSC. I think we'll see. If you want to buy some stock here, I'll give you a free stock tip, even though the markets are kind of inconsistent. Buy your Kaique stock and buy it now, because it seems like that's a guy that is really emerging. He's 19 years old. He's from the Gremio Academy. Dallas picked him up for $4 million right after the season began. He has really taken the 6 role due to Ramiro missing some time with yellow card suspension and just some other issues, and has looked really, really good for a 19-year-old. If you're talking about young players that are going to make an impact, I think there's going to be a time where he and Pamukal are on the field together as starters. And good luck outrunning and out-efforting that group, because it's just not going to happen. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I think you'll see a decent amount of Paxton, maybe 30 to 45. I could see him as a second-half guy. Outside of that, I mean, we'll see about, I think Bernie Kamungo is refining his juice. I mentioned him a little earlier. He had a really nice goal in what was probably one of the better team goals for FC Dallas all year in New Jersey. He seems like he's finding his confidence again. If he's finding his confidence again, that's going to be a real problem for opposing teams, because you're going to have to guard. You got to mark somebody, and if you're marking Musa and Acosta, you're not marking Bernard Kamungo, and that's going to be a mistake on y'all's part, or the Royal y'all in this case. But I admittedly, as much confidence as I don't have in this team coming in, just because of circumstance and because of histrionics, they do have the ability that if they're kind of a wounded tiger at the moment. And so what's going to happen? Are they going to crumple, or are they going to come out swinging, with claws and teeth? If they come out with claws and teeth, this could be a rough game. I'm just hesitant to say that's going to be the outcome, because they're human beings, and I want to give them, the reality of, like, being tired is hard. Playing soccer is hard.
Yeah, especially literally, like, they're going straight from Harrison, New Jersey to Seattle, right? Is there any trip home?
If I'm not mistaken, they should already be there. But yes, they did not come back to Texas before Saturday's game. They will have already left either today or tomorrow. I believe it was today to go to Seattle. So yes, they are not coming back home before the Cincinnati game, or before they will come home after Seattle, then go to Cincinnati, then come back home.
We got Sam Hale of the FC Dallas Agenda podcast. He also does written content covering FC Dallas on the Toros Talk Substack. Subscribe to the Toros Talk Substack. Sam, just got a couple more for you here,
Sure.
And then I'll let you go. You talked about it a little bit earlier when we were doing the Ferreira discourse, but I guess I would be remiss not to ask if there's any sort of more in-depth Leo Chu update. You were saying that you have heard similar rumblings that they're shopping him around. He's injured right now. What would you say the overall standing of Leo Chu with FC Dallas is at, given what's been a season where it seems like he's struggled to stay on the field, and now they might be shopping him for a potential transfer?
So when we did the show the first time, I marked him as an incomplete because we just didn't have a lot of data, and he was playing out of position at that time as a second striker in a 4-4-2. It's a couple months later, and I still have to mark it as an incomplete because he got hurt almost immediately after that run of play, and we've never seen him play winger still, despite the fact that he got healthy for a little while. He's never played winger, so I don't know what to make of it. I really don't. Like, the awkward part is I really do think, based on what I've seen, his previous numbers, I think he would add value to this team as a winger of some kind as they struggle to find, a pairing that they like. I really want to see him do it. I just need him to get healthy to do it. But that said, if a team in Brazil comes along and is like, we'll give you somewhere between $2 and $4 million, I don't know if that team exists. If they do,
that was the dream. That was the dream in Seattle for so long.
Yeah, no, I would imagine so, and that's kind of the dream now. But to his credit, Andre Giannata has a lot of connections in Brazil. He came up through Grêmio himself. He knows that's his bailiwick. He knows all about South America in general, Brazil in specific. So if anyone can talk up Leo Chu and use his connections to get it done, it would be him. But I would be okay with him getting healthy and giving him just time to see what he can do here. Even if here's a hot take, I'd be okay with not selling him at all, and just letting him go at the end of the year, because I think there's still enough potential in there that if you wanted to keep him and renegotiate a contract at the end of the season to a lower number, or put him on some sort of, like maybe not a senior minimum, but like some sort of easier cap number to digest, because that's where he's at right now, I wouldn't be against it, just because I think there's something there. The raised skirt and perfumed inner thigh of Leo Chu has seduced me in a certain way. And that said, if someone comes up and says, we'll give you $2 million, put him on a plane. Like, that's no disrespect to him. Money is money. And if you can get it, you got to get it. Like, but I think the possibilities for Chu are not quite endless, but I'm nowhere near the low man on Leo Chu. I think there is something to him in this system. I think the coaches feel that way, the way he was performing in training prior to the injury that's got him out now. But it's a business ultimately. This is a people business in general. And if you can get a return on your investment for him, sometimes you just got to do it. Like, that's just how it works. It's like Alan Velasco. I don't think they wanted to sell Alan Velasco, but Boca said, here's a check. And they
don't care. They'll pay whatever. Wasn't it $10 million?
It was something like 10 plus some incentives. They could drive it to like 12 or 13, which Dallas bought him for 7. So they made an immediate $3 million profit, and they could clear a couple more if he gets it together. So yeah, I don't blame him for doing that. You just had to do what you had to do there. I would like to see Chu hang around because I want to see, I want to exhaust that option. But at the same time, if somebody offers you a good price, this is MLS. It's not the EPL. It's not La Liga. You got to take it because the margins of money are so thin, and you got to be wise economically.
Yeah, the Velasco one was one thing. The one that I really couldn't wrap my hand around was when River Plate dropped $10+ million on Sebastian Driussi, who literally had been openly expressing that he didn't want to be on the team and was not coming off a productive year, and they still dropped that much money on him. That was wild. With Leo Chu, it's tough because there is something there in the sense that he had some genuinely good moments in Seattle, and it wasn't like all just like individual isolated moments.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a 4-assist game in MLS, famously, all 4 to Jordan Morris. I want to say he had a game-winning goal at LA Galaxy. He had a 2-goal game at Vancouver. He had 14, I think, assists in total in time in Seattle, where he was a starter for some of it, but a lot of it was spot duty, and he still contributed a little bit. It's just the consistency and the health. I agree. Like, if you get the offer from a Brazilian club, you take that money and run. Sam, I guess to close it out here, I wanted to ask you more generally about how you're feeling about this season for FC Dallas and what you want to see from now until the end of the season. When you think about the Eric Quill experience and what he's brought to this project and what you want to see, what would constitute a successful season for Eric Quill and Club Brass here? You got Luciano Acosta, which was a huge move. Got Petar Musa to pair him with, which seems like a solid foundation. The results have maybe been a little fluctuating right now. It's a bit of a downturn in form. How are you just kind of sizing up what you want to see from this club for the rest of the year?
I mean, the easy answer is playoffs. If you make the playoffs, the season is a success. You missed the playoffs last year. Quill has ultimately said this is a club that he wants to lead to a title. And it's not even in the generic, like, well, we want to win as much. Like, no, he has said, I want to win a championship. We are going, like, I want to win a trophy. So, Open Cup would have been nice, but now that's off the table. So I think this season you just have to make the playoffs in a West that is clearly down, where you've got Kansas City, who's not good. The Galaxy apparently forgot how to play soccer without Ricky Puig, which, too bad for that. Like, there's enough volatility in the West that you can get into one of those 9 playoff spots. And if you don't, I think it's an indictment on what you're doing. As far as right now, if I had to kind of put like a 1 to 10 on it, I'm kind of at like a 5.5, because there are things I like that Quill has done. He has really gone about instituting a tough mentality to the team. He's really, the way he handles the games, the way he handles the players, he's very honest about tactics. He's probably one of the more honest coaches in MLS when it talks about his successes, his failures. He is a player's coach in that way. And that's not to say that any previous managers were not. I think they were. But he is a former player. He's played in MLS, so he kind of understands it. But I think we're also seeing him go through the rookie experience for MLS. Like, he's a rookie coach. Like, he is what he is, and he doesn't know what he doesn't know. I think he's learning. In fact, I asked him a couple of weeks ago, what's the thing that with a third of the season gone, what have you learned the most? What's the biggest thing? And he talked about managing the players mentally. He says, tactics and one thing, that's, in his mind, that's the easy stuff. But like learning how to engage with his players, to connect with his players, to get them to do the things that he wants, that the team needs, that kind of mental side of the game, he says, has been the most challenging part. And it's the thing that he's had to learn the most, and he's found the most rewarding about his time as the FC Dallas head coach. He is very open about the fact that he is still learning how to do this. This is not Bruce Arena. This is not Wilfred Nancy or even Brian Schmetzer. This is a guy that is in his first MLS job and knows it and is not afraid to say as much. And I think that honesty is a very good thing. It may be too honest in the long run, because I think, it kind of depends on what management wants. But I think he still has to figure out what he wants his team to be on offense. Kind of ironic, considering he was an offensive-minded coach when he came in. But I think he's got buy-in in the locker room. I think the guys believe in him. So I think that's a big part of this. I don't think he's lost the room in any way. I think they're very much still willing to fight for him because he fights for them. But I think you can see the things he has to learn. He has to figure out the offense in general. He has to figure out how to get into a space where he doesn't need to make great adjustments at the 60th minute, because you're already leading by 2 goals and you can shut this thing down. Like some of the wizardry he's had to pull off the bench with changes is partially because he got it wrong to start or because the players haven't performed to start. So he wouldn't have had to make those changes if they had gotten it right in the first place. It's kind of like fixing a car. Like, why couldn't you build it right the first time? Now, that said, the window is coming up in July. And I remember a story Nico Esteves told us in his first season. We were asking him how he felt about his roster. And he was very candid. He said, look, this is nothing against the players I have. But to build the roster that I want, I need between 2 to 3 windows. And that's the standard for just about every coach. Well, Quill got hired at the end of the USL playoff run. He only had so much control over this specific roster. You know, obviously, he's probably pretty happy that Osaze Urguide's here. He's probably pretty happy that Lucho Acosta's here. Like, he's happy about the guys he has. But I think now it's going to be about going into this summer window and the winter window, going, okay, these are the players that you had. What do you like? It's going to be a focus group. What do you like? What do you not like? How do we fix it? And they're not going to have a lot of flexibility in this summer window because they've got to make a decision on Sho Kafumana. His loan is up when this window begins. So he's either got to stay or go back to Israel. And Salih's loan is coming up in the Saudi Pro League. We don't have any idea what's going on with that because I don't know how to watch the Saudi Pro League. And it seems like after their initial flurry, nobody really cares about the Saudi Pro League anymore. They've got to make some decisions on, like, Giovanni Jesus. He's already on the season-ending injury list. Will he come back in the winter? So I think even though this roster turned over considerably, Quill is going to get his collective hands on it. And I think we're going to see some other changes made in the long run, whether that's adding some depth at outside back, which is still something they need, whether it's adding another center back, something they need, or, and I think this would actually be what I would prefer, trusting the young players to come in and just make some impact. Let's see Malachi Molina. Let's see Diego Garcia. Let's see guys like, Alvaro Augusto, who I think is going to be really good one day as an MLS center back. Give some of these younger players the opportunity. Maybe recall Carl Sainty from his loan and let him be the fourth center back and actually play him. He's a big mobile center back. That's kind of what they need right this minute. I don't think Thomas Pondeca's coming back, but he's at New Mexico. Well, he knows New Mexico better than just about anybody right now. So I think they have a lot of interesting paths to walk, and I think success in this season is playoffs, but I don't think he necessarily needs success to make it. Maybe I'm misjudging the Hunt's ambition, but I also think they understand, hey, we're going through a stadium renovation. Half our stadium is not being attended at the moment, and this was always going to be a project. They've been remarkably patient with most managers. They gave Nico 2.5 years, Lucci 2.5 years. Oscar was here for a long time. Even Shelos Heinemann was here for a while. The Hunt family has not been one to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. That said, if I could give Eric Quill a little bit of advice, not that he needs it from me, let's get to the playoffs, buddy. Let's lock everything up and get to the playoffs.
Sam, I do have one more for you real quick, sure. Digging into something that you mentioned there, which is, the idea of playing the kids, handing the reins over to the young guys. I feel like FC Dallas is a club where you might be uniquely positioned to do stuff like that, given the club's reputation as a hub of youth development and really having as much success as anybody when it comes to bringing young homegrown players up through the academy and then having them actually make impact with the first team. We've seen it time and time again with FC Dallas. You hit on a few names there that you like that are coming up, but I guess my question is, where do things stand with the youth academy right now? Would you say that FC Dallas is in a situation where this next group coming up is poised to kind of continue that legacy and reputation as one of the best clubs in the league at this? Or are there any questions as to whether these new kids can live up to all that success that the club has had in that area?
So I think it's somewhere in the middle. So I don't think there's going to be a golden generation like we saw with guys like Chris Richards, Justin Shea, Jesus Ferreira, Paxton Pomacall, that kind of era of guys where you were literally just developing greatness. You're just plucking it from the farm system and bringing it up. But I think we're seeing Dallas return to those roots in a lot of ways of playing young players be it, we talked about Nolan Norris a little bit earlier. That's a guy finally at 20 years old getting his chance when I think he should have been playing 2 years ago regularly because I thought he was that good back then. But we had a manager that didn't really like to play the youth players. You got Diego Garcia, who's making a big-time impact, who recently got his first action for the first team. So I think you're going to see him more. He was an academy product by Kaique at 19, is a big-time developmental prospect. Bernie Kamungo is working his way back into the first team. I think if you're looking for guys that are going to make an impact that come from the academy, I think a guy like Daniel Barron, who's 17, is going to be a potential long-term winger. He's big. He's fast. I think there's a real chance. He's only 17, but he's playing regularly with NTSC, so I think there's an option there. Malachi Molina, who I did mention a little bit earlier, is a freak athlete at 19 years old. He's played winger. He's played fullback. He's probably going to play somewhere on the right side, but he is a grown man body with great speed. He's going to be a problem. Granted, I said the same about Dante Sealy, and it's not working out in Montreal or Dallas. So, hey, you miss sometimes. So I think there's some good pieces on the way. And I think there's some better ones in like the U16, U15 levels. I won't speak about those extensively because that's not my forte. I know that people that do it, and I salute them. They know way more than I do. But they tell me that there's talent in those spots. So I think, is this generation the next big one? I think there's MLS players in there, and I think you need those, and I think they're coming. I mean, hell, Michael Collodi is listed as a homegrown, and he's legitimately the backup keeper now. Like they stumbled into a backup keeper by signing that dude last year just to fill a hole at NTSC. He wins MLS Next Goalkeeper of the Year and is now the backup and has played really well when called upon for Dallas. So I think the club is getting back to where they are, but they may not quite be in the Ricardo Pepi level of gems of guys scoring in the Champions League that they would hope for. But I don't know. I think if you're looking, the primary job of the academies is one of two things: to feed your MLS squad or to sell players somewhere else so you can buy players for your MLS squad. In that regard, I think they're going to succeed pretty well. But I think if I had to lean on one of those more than the other, I would probably say they're going to end up producing more MLS level players than guys that they're going to end up selling on to a top 5 league or even like South America.
Sam, that is all I got for you here this evening. Thank you so much for giving us the time. Again, you've been a fantastic resource for myself and our audience this season, getting up on our FC Dallas knowledge. So really appreciate that, and we'll get you back on the show soon. Before you go, is there any work that you got coming up, either on the FC Dallas Agenda podcast, Toros Talk, or otherwise that you would like to plug, or just anything that you want our audience to know about your platforms?
Yeah, a couple things. So I just did a big write-up the other day on Lucho Acosta, because we've been basically having the discussion for weeks on the post-game show. So I dove into the numbers. I put that on my Substack, torostalk.substack.com, basically talking about why is Lucho not being as Lucho as he normally is. And there is actually a couple reasons why statistically. And I talked about how they could maybe work on that, but there is a couple reasons. There is a big difference about what Lucho was doing this year compared to his MVP years that I wrote about over on Substack, torostalk.substack.com. I'm actually working on a research project right now about FC Dallas going all the way back to 2018. It involves goal scoring at home specifically. It's taking me a little bit longer than I anticipated because it involves spreadsheets and having to find MLS highlights from 2019 and 2018. So it's taking me a little bit longer than I intended, but I think it's going to be really interesting when it comes out because it tackles a theme, an idea that FC Dallas has had for a long time. So I'm trying to see if they're correct about it or not. So again, watch out for that. It'll probably come out sometime. I'm hoping to have it out after we get through this brutal stretch in May, and I can kind of sit down and really get my thoughts together on it. But again, subscribe to the Substack, and you won't miss it whenever it comes out. Over on the FC Dallas Agenda, we are planning a really fun interview next week. It'll probably drop on Fridays with these 2-match and 3-match weeks. We've been dropping on Fridays. We just dropped an episode today talking about the Gold Cup. We talked about the 2 games, Houston and New Jersey. And we're also talking about, here's an exclusive. Here's a little fun. We're talking about doing a very special transfer episode of the Agenda where we go in to the anatomy of a transfer, what it takes from initial interest to getting the player here. We're talking with some of the decision makers at Dallas to see if they'd be willing to sit still and basically walk us through what's it like from scouting up, from identifying a need to scouting a player to negotiating that deal to getting them here. We've got some really interesting ideas about it. We're hoping to have that out by when the window opens in mid-July. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to the FC Dallas Radio Network. You can just find it on any of our podcast providers. It'll go out there. I promise. If we end up doing this, it's a big project we're working on. We will be blasting it everywhere, trying to win that new podcast Grammy that they announced is coming out next year. So, we're working on a lot of exciting ideas. We're always trying to innovate. And we also always want feedback. Like, I want feedback on my work. We want people telling us, hey, we really like this, or we'd like to hear this, be it an FC Dallas supporter or someone that just loves the game and wants to hear more MLS content or better MLS content in this world where it continues to shrink at a big level. It's up to us, folks like you, Ari, folks like us over at the FCDRN to keep that passion and that just level of content up. But I appreciate anyone that comes by, that reads, that listens, because soccer is a people game. This isn't about numbers. This isn't about money. It's a people game ultimately. And supporters are people too. And, we all started as supporters before we ever got into something like this. So our roots are our roots. And anyone that watches this, I love you. Hard hand. I don't know how the no kids do it. But, I thank you for giving me a platform here. Anytime you need me, I'd be happy to come join you because it's always a blast. I always have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Keep it up, man. You guys are doing excellent work covering FC Dallas day in, day out. And again, appreciate the time. It's been really helpful for us this year. And we'll get you on again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ari. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, take care. Have a good one, Sam.
You too.
That was Sam Hale of the FC Dallas Agenda podcast and the Toros Talk Substack. Always good to hear from Sam. That was our second time having him on the show, and it's been again. I say it every week, but every time I bring these guests in, I feel like I come out of it and I'm like, wow, my knowledge of every MLS club is going way deeper and more in depth than it rightfully should. But that's a good thing. That's why we do it. All right. I had a couple other things planned for this evening. And if you guys have any topics or questions or anything that you want me to hit, feel free to drop them in chat and I'll get to as many as I can. But let's see. Let's do this Club World Cup stuff. And then I'll get to some Brian Schmetzer sound, because this is more just relaying the news. I don't know if I have that many takes on it, but hold on. I should have had this pulled up. I'm sorry. I think there's two big news stories regarding the Club World Cup right now. Number one, there is a special transfer window for all clubs participating in the Club World Cup. Can sign new players for the tournament. All 32 teams competing in the FIFA 2025 Club World Cup can sign new players during a special registration window from June 1st to 10th. The sports governing body announced Wednesday. The transfer period will allow MLS participants, Inter Miami CF and Seattle Sounders FC, to add players ahead of the tournament should they have the roster and salary cap space. LAFC could join them provided they win their charity match. Those are my words. Provided they win their playing game versus Club America on May 31st. MLS teams not participating in the Club World Cup won't have access to this special registration window. However, all MLS teams can make summer additions during the secondary transfer window, which runs from July 24th to August 21st. So special transfer window, guys. Special transfer window. Really, I think it's just it's nice to get VIP treatment, If you're in the Club World Cup, you get access to this special transfer window. And if you're not, too bad. You got to wait till the secondary transfer window. I'll just tell you guys my my first reaction to this, which is I just kind of have questions as to what exactly this entails. You can obviously bring a player in earlier than you would otherwise be able to, but I guess my question is more just the concept of bringing a player in that close to the tournament. Like, are you really going to be able to bring someone in, get them fully fit and up to speed and integrated with the group in time to where they can actually make a meaningful impact in the Club World Cup? I mean, I think, it's fine. It's just, I don't know how much of an impact you can rightfully get in that short of a time frame. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't, I would be pretty surprised if whoever any of these teams bring in is actually able to do that. Jake says, who the hell can we even add? Can we renegotiate any DP salaries? Looks like we'd be locked into U22. Could loan game for next year, but we're out of money in cap space. Yeah, all those, the salary cap factors as well. I guess what it could theoretically do for the Sounders is sort of expedite a U22 that they might be bringing in, that they said that they've been looking to fill the spot vacated by Leo Chu. I think the idea was that they were going to bring somebody in the secondary window. Now they could do that sooner. Which if they have the target that they want, that's great. Again, how much impact a player like that can make in that short of a time frame ahead of a tournament like this, I don't think this changes very much, I guess, is my first reaction. That's my first reaction. But new players are always fun, and really I think it's about the VIP status. They should use this just to flex the VIP status. But in terms of the actual impact that it's going to make on the Club World Cup itself, I don't know about that. Craig made it seem like they aren't targeting ready to play number 9 anymore. The last Craig Weib's comment I remember on the topic was he was reiterating that whatever position it is, whatever player it is, they're not looking at it as a developmental spot. They're looking at it as whoever we bring in is someone that we need to be able to contribute and play right away, not sit on the bench, not be a guy who is learning on the bench, an impact player, which that's great. Easier said than done, especially with a U22 spot. But if we're talking about it through the lens of can Seattle actually use this window to meaningfully strengthen the roster before the Club World Cup? I don't know. It seems like a tall ask. Cannot think FIFA did this without MLS asking for it, and I have to think MLS will grease wheels to get the 3 clubs to do anything to perform better on the world stage. Yeah, I mean, you could be right, and that's how they're thinking of it. I just don't know if that's going to work, is what I'm saying. Like, even under a normal transfer window, like the way these things work is it usually you don't get a player that makes that big of an impact that fast typically. Sometimes you get a Nico Ladero who slots right in and looks incredible. I think Ryan Kent's so far, from what we've seen of him, he seems like the type of player that can slot right in, but usually it doesn't always go like that. So if it's sort of like a desperation attempt to be like, let's bolster these clubs. You know who needs it? Is Inter Miami. Inter Miami needs it worse than Seattle right now. That's really what this must be all about. They're looking at it and they're like, oh man, Messi and the Barca boys aren't looking too hot. They just lost to Minnesota United. This is bad. What if Messi and the Barca boys go to the Club World Cup and get worked? that would undermine our whole plan. Our whole plan was to have them be the showcase at the Club World Cup. Let's give them a transfer window. Hail Mary it. I don't know. I'll be interested to see, just in general, special transfer window aside, how are Messi and the Barca boys going to do at the Club World Cup? Because it's looking dicey right now. Noah's been saying he thinks that they're going to face plant. I'm torn on it. I'm torn on what I expect, because on one hand, they have looked genuinely not good at all lately, which from my perspective, I think that's great. I hope they keep looking like that. I've also seen, we are talking about a relatively small sample size of games where they've been struggling. And I've seen what that team can look like with Messi and the Barca boys firing at full capacity, which they haven't been lately, and maybe they won't ever again. But I could also see a scenario where this was just a downturn in form and they get back to closer to the team that they looked like last year when they set the points record. I'd be surprised if it stays like this. But I don't know. That's kind of what I was writing about in my ship's log for Sounder at Heart this week, was just I'm not ready to call it a full-on downfall just yet. But they're teetering on that. They are teetering on that. MLS does not want all three teams to get dump trucked, especially on home soil. They have something to gain and a lot to lose on the world stage in this head-to-head. They do, probably more than I've been giving credence to. I've been kind of some people call it cope. Some people call it preemptive cope, which, yeah, maybe it is. I've been saying that for me, I'm less concerned about the results at the Club World Cup more than I'm concerned about just competing with dignity, which competing with you can compete with dignity and still take a negative result. Okay. Just compete with dignity. Don't go out there and have it look like it's the first time that you've ever stepped foot on a soccer field. That's the kind of stuff where if it goes like super off the rails, that's when we're going to have to deal with the discourse of MLS and the clubs or whatever being a disgrace to the sport, which I'm going to try and be level-headed about the fact that we're talking about clubs like PSG, who are, they're pretty good, PSG. They play the game at a high level. They're not, Seattle's going to be the underdog there against PSG. They're going to be the underdog. So if you lose as the underdog, that's one thing. All I ask is compete with dignity. Don't do anything that sets the league or the club back a decade or more. We all are going to have different criteria for what that means. But for me, that's what it's more about. But it does kind of, the separate transfer window does kind of, doesn't it sort of, I don't know if this is the thinking behind it, but it does sort of feel like it's like oh man, this could be bad. They have to play against PSG. Oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Better give them a special window to get some new guys in there. I don't know. So you're saying don't start the 11 we fielded against LAFC midweek. Yeah, I would advise against the that level of squad rotation, yes. I would throw the first choice 11 out there against PSG and Atletico Madrid. It's still kind of crazy that like going into a tournament where our coverage and the game reviews and stuff are going to be against PSG. We're going to be scouting PSG. I'm going to have to get a PSG reporter on here. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the L Pod. Today we're going to be breaking down the Seattle Sounders match where they played PSG. It's good. There's novelty to that. It's kind of cool in a way. It's just, it could be a rough result. It could be a bloodbath, as one executive, anonymous MLS executive, who he didn't want to put his name on it. He said Seattle in that group, it's going to be a bloodbath anonymously. Could be right. I've been saying PSG, good team. Good team. Got some good players. Have they ever played against Ryan Kent? They haven't had to do that yet. Have they ever had to play against Nuhu? You think Nuhu's not going to get up for the PSG game? His biggest dream in life was to play for PSG. I don't know if that's true at all, but he did. I think the most prominent Nuhu transfer rumors were to Ligue. So, yeah, I think, Pat, that's a good point. Like, this is what they did. They just made the prize money so high that that all the big dogs in this tournament are going to have to. They're not going to be able. I think there's probably regulations. I think people were saying there's regulations about that anyway. They can't just like play an academy side or something. But with prize money like this, I mean, the big dogs are going to be out there. Stu Hawks coming out against PSG. Yeah, that is if you're not going to let him play in MLS, let him play against PSG. Free Stu Hawks. The haters and the coaches, they say he's too skinny. Yeah, well, guess what? You know who else is skinny? Brian Schmetzer. You know who else is skinny? Andy Rose. Neither one of them are exactly Yamar Gomez and Andrade out there during their playing careers. Free Stu Hawks. KKR backflip. 55 and a half Nuhu step overs. Nuhu during the PSG game, it could get rowdy out there. Both PSG and Inter are playing in Seattle in June. We'll get to see the champions of Europe, champions of South America, Botafogo, and the champions of CONCACAF, Vancouver or Cruz Azul. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. It's going to be a big summer of soccer. But, we'll see what I'll be honest, guys. The more I hear about just like the planning and logistics of this tournament, the more I'm like, oh, okay. We'll see how this goes. And that actually, that brings me to my next topic, another Club World Cup headline. This time from Jada Evans of the Seattle Times. Shout out Jada Evans. As per the Seattle Times, Sounders not happy with Club World Cup money. Quote, there's no incentive for us to play. So that doesn't seem good. And then the article goes into exactly why. Frustration is building among MLS players expected to participate in the Club World Cup in June due to the league not responding to requests to negotiate how participation money is divided. So essentially what's happening is there's a record $1 billion prize pot. FIFA included a tiered system for how it would be distributed. Sounders, Inter Miami, and potentially LAFC receiving a $9.5 million payday for participating as part of CONCACAF. But under the league's, MLS's current CBA, the Club World Cup falls under a clause for performance and our participation in compulsory tournament or non-compulsory tournament. That stipulates a collective $1 million cap for players, which in the case of initial Club World Cups earnings would be an approximate 90-10 split. So the players were capped at $1 million split, which is basically barely anything. There's no incentive for us to play, really, if you're talking about 90-10 for performance bonuses. Sounders keeper Stefan Fry said, I don't think that's what FIFA had intended. They're worried about the players being fairly compensated for the extra workload. We fail the same way. We're not arguing about more money coming in for bonuses at all, just divvied up accordingly. League didn't respond to a request for comment. So that doesn't seem great. That doesn't seem great. It's just, it's funny because the whole point of that money was to incentivize teams to like really take it seriously, for players to treat it like a competition that they really, really want to win and not like a showcase event. And then you've got this like CBA technicality, which puts a $1 million cap for players, I guess, in a tournament like this. And now the players aren't happy about it. So they got to do something about that. Where does the 8.55 milli go? The club? Yeah, that's how I was thinking of it. Like, oh, that's money that they can spend on players, reinvest into the team, whatever the case may be. Apparently, union leadership for the clubs have had virtual meetings to educate their teammates and strategize. Christian Roldan, Jackson Reagan, and Andy T are representing the Sounders. So we'll be keeping tabs on that. But there's just a lot of stuff like this that keeps popping up. The ticket prices have obviously been a big issue. I don't know. Chat, does anyone know, like, has anyone looked at the prices recently and seen if I thought I heard something about them being more reasonable and not as outlandish, but I'm not actually sure if that's the case. Does that mean we buy out Jordan and purchase a new DP during the special transfer window? No. That would be a bombshell, but can't see that one happening. Poor legal composition. Poor legal composition in their doc. Should have been something like $1 million cap or percentage of the prize, whichever is greater. That's what I was going to say. Is it like bureaucracy stuff like this? It just feels like, can you not just have like a common sense amendment? It's like a constitutional amendment, a CBA amendment, where it's like, okay, we didn't anticipate the situation where we'd have clubs playing in a tournament where the participation money is pushing $10 million. We need the players to be able to be compensated fairly for the extra labor that they're doing, which is it's a real thing. There's a physical demand that comes with this. There's a toll that's going to come with this, both physically and mentally. It's not like it's not asking to move heaven and earth, I don't think, to just come to an agreement that everyone thinks is fair. Right? Is the CBA an infallible document? The Constitution has amendments. I don't know. PSG prices are the same. Other two Sounders matches are much cheaper. That's kind of the read I had on it as well. I'll be interested to see what the turnout is like for the PSG game, because I feel like they're obviously a global brand, huge fan base. I'm sure there's a ton of PSG fans in Seattle. But if you're also charging $280 per ticket, a lot of people are probably going to just watch it on TV. It's also on Monday at like noon or something for international broadcast. That's another like silly thing about the logistics here. I get you have international broadcasting timing stuff to contend with, but like noon on a Monday. We put it on noon on a Monday. Why can't we sell tickets? Why does no one want to go? Got a couple of super chats here. Derek Richards, sorry I missed you earlier. $3 super sticker. Love and appreciate you, man. Matt Sexton, thank you so much for the $5. Bert today about Champions League final. I'll watch it as a fan more than someone might face that team in a couple weeks. We are facing them. Exactly. Exactly. It's weird. I'm looking forward to, I'm genuinely looking forward to it just for the novelty, both of an MLS team and obviously Seattle playing a team like this, but also it's just there. We're not going to have many, if any, situations where we get to do this, like from our content perspective, like preparing for podcasts and streams where we're scouting up PSG, Atletico Madrid, Botafogo. I'm going to do my best to line up guests and people who cover these teams to that whenever Seattle plays in CONCACAF or the last time they played in Club World Cup, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of Egyptian media and Al Ali people, fans, reporters reaching out to me, really just wanting to learn about MLS and Seattle. And it's just a situation where I never would have interacted with Al Ali's media and fan base if Seattle wasn't playing in that tournament. And now these are teams that are much more like mainstream, huge fan bases. So it'll be fun from that perspective. As for how the games are gonna go, I don't know about that. But CBA can be amended, but the owners would have to allow it, which in all union versus owners bargaining, neither side gives up something for nothing. Yeah, everything that goes into what like a CBA amendment would entail, I don't know. It's just I probably make a mistake when I think of these things in terms of like how common sense could just prevail. Shouldn't be as hard as it gets made, you know? We can all look at this and see that a 90-10 split for player comp versus like what the club is getting. Does 90-10 seem fair to anybody? Like, what are we talking about? The players are the ones who are actually going out there and playing in the game. They should get something for that. More than 10%. I think season ticket holders who got hosed are going to be offered an opportunity to get tickets in line with the lower prices being offered now. Okay. That's something. Literally a match you'd play on FIFA. Exactly. I once famously beat my friend at FIFA when he was playing as the Spain national team and I was playing as the Colorado Rapids. That's usually where you get stuff like this. He would be not happy if he heard me that I mentioned that on air. Hopefully he's not watching. If LAFC can collect the bag and make it to the Club World Cup, do they perform better in their group than Sounders or Miami? That's a good question. Let's talk about this. First of all, for all the not as good logistics and planning and compensation division and all that, I think this charity match is pretty hilarious. I love that we get to watch it just as impartial observers who are already in the tournament can kind of just kick back, watch them fight for it, duel for it. You guys duel for it while we watch. It's kind of a power move, but imagine like low key the pressure on this game for both Club America and LAFC is immense when you think about it. It's pretty much a game for $10 million. 10% of which apparently goes to the players. So maybe LAFC shouldn't. Maybe LAFC players shouldn't care about it. They're only getting 10% of it. But the point is, a play-in match in this scenario is that's high stakes for them. That is high stakes for them. I don't envy that that they're doing that, because imagine the discourse if LAFC chokes that game, especially with their reputation for doing that. They famously have a checkered history when it comes to performance in finals or just one-off games like that. So let's see what the boys in the black and gold, let's see what they got. One match. It's like a movie trailer. One match for $10 million. Starring Steve Cherundolo and Denny Bwanga in a duel for glory. They're doing it. How do you prepare for a game that you're playing for $10 million? What do you say to the boys? Again, pretty glad that Seattle doesn't have to do that. They should just ride the 22 Champions League into more tournaments. Got into 2 Club World Cups off it. You know who should really get in if they win it this year? The Vancouver Whitecaps. Whitecaps are better than LAFC. Anyway, Jake, let's go back to this. I kind of got sidetracked there. Do they perform better in their group than Sounders or Miami? What group would LAFC be in? Can anyone drop that? Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this would be LAFC's group. Flamengo, Esperance Sportiva de Tunis, and Chelsea. Chelsea's a pretty that's a high profile club. Feel like Seattle's group is harder than that. I feel like Seattle's got the hardest one out of any of them. Seattle's group is stacked. It seriously is. So I think LAFC might have a chance of performing better just purely based on strength of the group. This LAFC team is also, they've looked better lately, but it's not like 2019 LAFC. If it was that level of LAFC, I would be like, they can actually make a little bit of noise in their group. This iteration of LAFC, I don't know. See, that's the thing. It's like, you know what I was saying about Ryan Kent earlier? I'm pretty sure Denny Bwanga isn't going to forget how to play soccer either, just because he's going against Chelsea. I don't know if Chelsea wants to see Denny Bwanga. Maybe they do. Maybe they can just pocket him that easily. I don't know. That's the thing. There's no frame of reference for this. I think if you asked anyone like LAFC versus Chelsea in real life, not in FIFA, they would be like, all right, Chelsea is going to win that super easily. On paper, yeah, that's what you would think. But the game is played on grass or turf. In this case, I think it'll be on grass because they're laying down grass at Lumen Field. Who's been trying to book you as a guest on the Sounders? Sorry. What do you mean? Like other shows or podcasts have me on to talk Sounders? No, I don't really get, I haven't gotten that many invites. I get invites sometimes. I feel like I got more invites in my beat writing days since I became more of an editor, not as much of an on the ground reporter. But then since I got into podcasting, YouTubing, you'd think I would get I've gotten some invites. We went on Soccer Wise. We went on Happy Foot, Sad Foot. We go on Happy Foot, Sad Foot a lot. I don't know. I guess I'm the one who's bringing everyone together. I've had tons of guests this season from YouTubers and reporters from all around. I don't mind being that guy. I have a friend coming in from France to cover PSG. He is a journalist and he covers PSG in France. Drop the name. Might need to talk to that guy. I haven't looked into it at all yet, but like I definitely want to do what I can to get people, either media or fans or other YouTubers, podcasters, whatever the case may be. But I'm going to try and get some people who cover these clubs. It's a unique opportunity. There might be no other situation in the entire time that I do Lobbing Scorchers where I'm going to be previewing games against PSG and Atletico Madrid or clubs of that profile and stature. This might be it. This might be the only time we ever see it. Got to make the most of it. Yeah, you're right, Excalibur. It's all Club World Cup teams get the early transfer window. Yeah, okay. So what I was saying earlier about them panicking because they were worried about it still could be true. They're letting everyone else use it as cover, but it's really about strengthening Lionel Messi and the Barca boys who are not doing so hot right now. And imagine the discourse around them. I think there's pressure on Seattle in this tournament for sure, because if they go out there and they lose by a lot in all the games, the discourse isn't going to be fun. But I think it's fair to say that there's more pressure on Inter Miami. A lot more. That's life as Messi and the Barca boys. You're expected to win in situations like this. And not only are they not winning right now, but they've been outright non-competitive in a few of these games recently, to the point where people such as myself have been pontificating about their potential downfall. So you're telling me if they go to the Club World Cup and they get rolled in a group that's easier than Seattle's group, I think that's fair to say. It's tough. They're on downfall watch. We need a new segment. I'm locked in on downfall watch for them, for Atlanta. I meant to bring this up on the last show, but you know who's low key on downfall watch right now too is Charlotte FC. They got Willie Zaha crashing out on Snapchat after the games. I think they've lost 5 in a row. That was a team that I think rightfully nationally were considered to take a big step forward this year. Gave their coach a contract extension. He's getting featured on Lobbing Scorchers Blazing Hot Coach Press Conference of the Week, sponsored by Hacks on Ferments. I think in part to try and divert attention away from the Willie Zaha Snapchat crash out, which I think we talked about this at the time, but Snapchat is a very funny form to crash out on. I haven't seen a Snapchat crash out since 2017. Zaha's on there just typing away. Got another super chat from Matt. Thank you. Appreciate the support, man. Ari, do you take us beating PSG after winning UEFA Champions League 1-0, but getting smoked 5-0 by both Botafogo and Atletico, or us being competitive but not advancing? That is a great question. I think I take the 1-0 over PSG. I do, because that would be historic, hilarious, incredible. If they beat PSG 1-0, I don't care about game state or stats or anything else. If they beat PSG 1-0, that's iconic instantly in my mind. To the point where I literally, if they beat PSG 1-0, but then get smoked in the other two games, that's an easy talking point for me. I'd be like, who cares? Beat PSG. Beat PSG. Read it and weep. Read the scoreboard. Read it and weep. Seattle Sounders 1, PSG 0. I would just thump my chest on that until the end of time. And literally, if people tried to bring up the fact that they got waxed in the other games, I would not care at all. That win alone would be worth that. Now, being competitive but not advancing, that's what I'm realistically hoping. I mean, obviously, I hope they advance, but with the knowledge that it's a hard group and you're going up against PSG and Atletico Madrid, I would take being competitive but not advancing. People don't like that. We've had people, when I talk about this before, we have people in chat going, it's all about winning. If you're not going to crash out if we lose to PSG, where's your ambition? I'm just trying to keep my expectations in check. It is PSG. Again, good soccer team. UEFA Champions League final. The favorite in that game. Real possibility, PSG has 6 points and is going to advance regardless of their result against us, and they play their B team. That would be sick. The hype behind the LAFC America match is hyping them up more than the other club that didn't actually qualify, and obviously more than us. I feel like their fan base, from what I've seen so far, is a mixture between being like hedging that they don't care in case they lose, but also being like, we want the 10 milli and we want to play in the tournament. I think the happy foot, sad foot guys have all been pretty consistent. Like, we should all want to play in this. We should all want to win this game, get to play against teams like this. But they're also playing, the charity match, that's a hard match. They made that charity match about as difficult as they could have for LAFC. Here's another good question from Hunch Punch. Weird thought. Will any of us pull for MLS clubs if they make it past the group? I know my answer. So, just for the sake of the hypothetical here, regardless of what happens with Seattle in this tournament, say LAFC makes it, say Inter Miami makes it past the group, would you be rooting for them? Would you be rooting for them? I'll give my answer, which is that, look, I have not that much against LAFC more than I have against any other Western Conference foe or rival. But LAFC crashing out of any tournament is always good for us, content-wise. And every time it happens, I wouldn't say I'm celebrating every time, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. So when we're talking about LAFC specifically, I'm always in favor of them crashing out of any tournament. I'm sure all their fans feel the same way about Seattle. So in the case of LAFC, I'm always rooting for the crash out. Inter Miami, I care a little bit less. But as far as what them crashing out of this tournament could mean for their downfall, I would be in favor of that. But let's say they don't crash out of the group and they keep playing. I guess I just think that Messi and the Barca boys at this point, they've kind of gotten to a point where people, not necessarily me, maybe me a little bit, people are preying on their downfall a little bit. It's like It's like any club like that, like like the Yankees or the Lakers, the Patriots back in the day. Like everyone is kind of always rooting on those teams. Everyone who isn't a fan of those teams is rooting for their downfalls. I would be I think I'd be lying to say that I wouldn't enjoy that a little bit. I'm already kind of enjoying what Inter Miami is going through right now. They're going through it. They're going through it. Root for LAFC, but not Miami. Interesting. Did Benno crash out after the Houston Open Cup game? I'm not sure. I have to check. He's been a Benny O presser is kind of underratedly one of the better pressers. I would say LAFC losing a final would be kind of funny for the bit, but that'd be winning too many games. That's kind of what I was thinking too. But you know what? I almost feel like the bit there would be too good. I would take having to watch them like win all those games and go on a crazy run just for the bit of them losing the final, even though I feel like that would be an easy spin for them or their fans if they made it that far and then lost. They'd say, you know what? We made it way further than anyone thought we would. Good run. Bummer we couldn't get it over the line, but I mean, an MLS team making the Club World Cup final, we're going down in the books for that regardless. They'd say all that, and that would be accurate. But it would still be a good bit. It wouldn't take away from that for me. Just because it's LAFC losing in a final. They love doing that. It's their greatest passion in life. Greatest passion in life, making it to the final and then losing it. I'll just be curious to see if any MLS team, any of these teams can make like a mid-major type run. Bust some brackets. It could happen. It's not as that happens in tournament soccer. It does. You never know what can happen in an individual game. Matt says I'd support Portland over LAFC and Miami in Club World Cup. Can't have LAFC and Miami having an even more endless supply of money. I mean, it's true. It would get them a lot of money. Those are clubs that are free spenders anyway. Supporting the Timbies over them is a pretty hot take because I feel like if the Timbies were in it, which they're not famously, but if they were, I can't say I wouldn't enjoy that, like a nice little Timbies crash out. Be a nice little Timbies crash out. I won't be upset. I don't think I'd be upset if any MLS team does well, but I don't know. I'm just, I guess I just root for the chaos. All right. A lot of Club World Cups takes there. Coming up on 2 hours. So not going to stay on all that much longer, but I did have some Brian Schmetzer sound that I wanted to play and react to tonight. So I'm going to do that now. This was Brian Schmetzer's scrum from Starfire yesterday, just on the state of the team coming off the road trip and looking ahead at this matchup against FC Dallas. And he weighed in on some Ferreira discourse, as he does sometimes. So I'm going to play this and react to it. Going to grab some water while it plays. Post-game live on Saturday. Yeah, I'm going to tentatively say yes. Something could happen that prevents it from happening on Saturday, but I think actually with this being a noon kickoff, I should be able. I don't know about Noah's availability, but I should be able to swing one. That's a good reminder. I need to figure out if we were talking about doing one from the stadium, which is something that we've been trying to look into more and to see if we can pull that off. So if we are able to do that, we'll do it from the stadium. But if not, I think I can do one when I get home, so we won't have to wait for Sunday morning is what I'm saying. But we'll be doing the post-game live at some juncture either way. Stay tuned for exact timing on that. All right. I'm going to play this Schmetzer sound now and react to it after.
Brian, a result that seems solid. You mentioned maybe you felt like drop points because of how well the team played. Now that you've seen it in the film room, where do you lie?
Still drop points. I think in the second half we created some good moments. When you say moments, chances, our expected goals wasn't through the charts, but there were good moments. Danny Masowski was unlucky, first slide there. Kent's ball over the top. There were even some good moments in the first half, but in the second half, I thought we were on top of them for large parts of times, but credit the Timbers, and they didn't allow a goal, and we got to do better in certain moments. That last little decision, Pedro Blaise Paul instead of playing to the left. What were the other ones? There were some just little decisions, little technical breakdowns that prevented us from scoring the second goal.
So if you look at the road trip as a whole and you take the results out, do you feel though? How do you feel about the balance of play on that road trip?
Well, good, not so good, and medium. Thought we played really well in Houston. Did a lot of good things. LAFC obviously was a dud, and there were some good moments there. And Portland might be better than just meh, but it was okay. 1-1-1 ain't gonna win you championships, but 3 games on the road, the travel, getting back at 3 a.m. That was a tough stretch.
I guess Ryan had mentioned something about how he had never done a road trip like that, and I looked it up, and he had never done a road trip. Anything like that at all.
No.
What kind of, I don't know, do you give a player like him a little bit more of a pass when you realize that this is probably twice as long as the longest road trip he's ever made in his life?
Well, it's not whether you give him a pass or not. It's whether you make the right decision in his playing time, in his minutes. You give him the information that he needs to have prior to the event, prior to the travel, prior to the games. Winning an MLS on the road is very challenging. Yeah, so I think we did an okay job, but he's just got to get used to it.
Rivalry week was last week. Would you prefer to not have 3-game weeks when you have to focus on rivalry week as the one to kind of close it out?
That's above my pay grade. However they put the schedule together, 3 road games, 3 home games. That's all the league.
I know you said last night about Jackson Reagan, but seeing him out here at training, how's he looking for Saturday?
Pretty good. Pretty good. He's got to make it through. He's got to do certain tests still. I got a smile on my face because he looked good. He looked sharp in training today, but he's got to pass some tests. So we'll see.
The other thing last night was we talked about the early kickoffs, and last year in home games before 4 p.m. you had 2 draws and a win. So I'm wondering, is you kind of how does the schedule change throughout the rest of this week as you kind of get ready for such an early kickoff?
Nothing. Doesn't change. We'll do a little less on the -1 because there's a couple hours, 7 hours from normal. But it's the same. We gave him an extra day off this week, so we only have a 3-day lead, and we'll make adjustments.
What have you made out of Jesus Ferreira's progress and maybe his game against Portland? It didn't seem like he was flashy, but you look at the stats and it seemed like he helped connectivity. He did his job. But what are you getting out of him so far?
He was good. Look, he hasn't scored, and I think that's what everybody draws their attention to. Could that be perceived as a negative? Some people's eyes, yes, but he helped us out of a lot of spots. He found the pass that maybe led to a chance. So I thought his game against Portland was good.
When it comes to him as a 9, I talked to Freddie Juarez, and he was saying how, he has a lot of tools in his belt, but helping him maybe be more aggressive towards goal and all these things so that he can develop. How much effort does it go into maybe having him play the 9 position and maybe playing more to a different style that he's used to playing?
What I would say is this: he's eager to learn. Where his final position is at this club, nobody knows yet. But when we ran him out as a 9 earlier in the year, I don't think the team was as settled. The lineups that he was playing and the games and everything just wasn't ideal. So Masasi's done well. We signed Asaze. Jordan's still ways away. I mean, there might be a chance again, but we'll see.
He's not. I guess one of the other things on Jesus is that it's not just that he hasn't scored; it's that he's not shooting. Is that something that
we can fix that? He's always scored. He's at 50 goals,
right?
So he knows how to shoot,
right? But is there something that you're seeing in his game that's just like there's is he? I don't know. Maybe he's trying to fit in different ways. I mean, is there something that you're seeing there?
No, we'll just try and encourage him to shoot more. How about that?
Okay.
FIFA kind of formalizing that they are going to have another window open to sign players. How do you think that might impact you guys with the Sounders?
Well, that's a question for Craig and Adrian, so we'll see. It is unique to the teams that are entering the Club World Cup, and if the right player comes around, I'm sure the club will spend the money.
How do you kind of feel where you guys are at right now? I know everything's not geared toward the Club World Cup or, being in a, peaking or anything like that for the Club World Cup, but where do you kind of feel that you guys are, with tactics, options, things like that right now?
I mean, look, the thud against LAFC certainly put a damper on some things, but I think we've played better in recent weeks. The Club World Cup obviously is a big talking point. Are we really going to compete with PSG when they spend, I don't know, a lot more money than we do? We have to be realistic. We want to go out and compete. You never know what can happen. This is sport. You start off in group competitions. You start off with a win, puts you in a driver's seat, gives you momentum. So there's certain things that we will look towards, but right now it's all about the league and just making sure that we can continue a good run of form.
I know it's a couple weeks out, but when you watch the Champions League final coming up, do you watch it as a soccer fan? Do you watch it like trying to scout them at all?
Man. We watch all the Champions League games as a fan. We watched Tacoma Defiance versus Portland Timbers as a fan, me and Tommy Dutra. So it's good.
You mentioned in KJR yesterday, the competition between Ken, Ferreira, and De La Vega. That has certainly, it seems like it's helped the team individual performance. But how important is it to at some point find the continuity of those three, or at least two? Because it seems like Albert's kind of got a solidified spot there in the middle.
It'll happen at some point. I don't know when, but it's good to have competition.
What do you feel like you still need to see maybe from a guy like Pedro De La Vega to be more consistent in that
durability, consistency? Couldn't play him. I mean, I couldn't play him 2 games in a row because, the injury factor. So he needs to be durable, needs to be consistent. He's had some good performances, some areas where he can do better. He's still a young kid.
And just to clarify with JP, you said he had food poisoning. That's why he wasn't available. Is that right?
Yeah, that was part of the reason, yeah.
Oh, was there another reason?
It's coach's decision.
Oh.
It's he put in heavy minutes, and he worked his butt off against LAFC. So.
And apologize if you've been asked this, but with Ryan Kent, like how much with the way that he's adapting, just travel, kind of getting used to travel in the U.S., maybe the most travel that he's really even done in his career. How much does that factor into
He's working on it. Yeah. He's working on it. We did answer that question, but we're working on it. He'll be fine. It's a good question. Now it's all good, Jada. It's all good.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right. Couple things from Schmetzer there. Got asked about Jesus Ferreira, as he does sometimes. Always like it when Schmetzer weighs in on the discourse. I think the only main thing that caught my ear from the Ferreira aspect of it was him kind of saying, like, when we were running him at the 9 earlier this season was when the team wasn't as settled. So I think the implication being you can't necessarily judge that as the final product because the team wasn't as settled. There was a couple situations where it was a bit of a mix and matched lineup. Not even with just him at the 9, but just in general, he's been out there a couple of those times in those situations. And I would agree with that in the sense, like, I think the St. Louis game comes to mind, right? Earlier in the season, team not as settled. No one really played well that game. Then the San Diego game, which was one of the first, there's been 2 debacles this season on the road. San Diego game was one of them. So he was saying that he didn't rule out the potential of Jesus Ferreira playing there at some point again. But I think the issue remains the same, which is that when you have a situation where you have to run them out wide, like they did in Portland, you just have to ask yourself, are we going to get the most out of him in this situation? Or would we be better served to start Paul Rothrock or Pedro de la Vega? I don't know. It's something that the staff has to keep tinkering with and finding out. But until he breaks out, it's going to be a continued storyline. And I think breaking out in this case constitutes scoring a goal or 2. I like the assists. I hope he keeps getting the assists. But they need to get him on the score sheet. That's the bottom line. Eric, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Appreciate the support. Sounders have played 9 on the road, only 5 at home. That feels relevant to their position in the standings. Yeah, I think that is relevant. I think that's relevant. I think as far as the standings go, just the fact that the season didn't start off that great in general. If you look at their form over the last 5 to 6 games, the LAFC game notwithstanding, but even with that in there, they've won 4 out of 6. So if they maintain the form, I get that the LAFC game traumatized some people. I'm not even begrudging that. That was not a fun watch. I didn't have fun watching it. But realistically, if you look at the totality of the last 5-6 games, if they are able to extrapolate form like that over a larger sample size, they should be able to get themselves back up to where, for me, this team should be up at 1.7, 1.8 points per game, as a baseline. It's a high expectation, but I have high expectations for this group and what they can do because of I guess one thing that I'm at least encouraged about at this point in the season is that we've seen a high ceiling from this team when they're able to hit their peak level. They haven't hit it consistently. They weren't hitting it at the beginning of the season. They definitely didn't hit it in the Cruz Azul series. They've had a couple of these games go off the rails. The San Diego game, the LAFC game, those went off the rails. But there are data points to the opposite effect as well that I do think that you need to take into account if you're evaluating the performance holistically. The LAFC game, it happened. The Nashville game also happened. The St. Louis game also happened. So there's been some good stuff. We've seen a level that if they are able to find consistency with it, can have them contending for trophies this year, which that's the That's the bottom line at the end of the day. The Houston game was really good. I was thinking of the other good data points. Some will say that the Houston game doesn't count because they're playing up a man. But I count that. I count that because well, you know, games where you're playing up a man, if you win them, they still count in the standings. But also, I lend more credence to like a red card that was earned, if that makes sense. Like Danny Musovski caused that red card by putting the center back under pressure. So they put themselves in that situation to be able to capitalize on the advantage. So I understand that if we're looking at like how high level can this team play at in attack, looking at a game where up a man isn't necessarily the best data point to look at, but that performance as a whole, that was a great performance. I think that was evidence of a good ceiling. And then we'll see what keeps happening with Ryan Kent as well. It started off absolutely electric. He looked like the greatest player I've ever seen. The Timbies game wasn't as electric. But I'm going to give benefit of the doubt there. He is never, as he talked about after the game, he's never done a road trip like that while playing games. And I think you could tell by the end there. The Timbers have been zone defense for the last several years and just now started playing man-to-man. It proved to be much better, but communication is still a weakness. I didn't know that they ran a zone. Was that in the Geo days? So I never really paid attention to that. I feel like in general, they've actually been better defensively this year than your typical Timbies team. Your typical Timbies team defense has been optional for a lot of the time. This year, at least before they lost to San Jose really bad. But other than that, it actually seemed like they had been defending really well. They have this Finn Sermon guy who's just good. Unfortunately, I'm sad to report. 21-year-old, like New Zealand international center back. He's good. Good player. So maybe that helps. Diego Chara, I mean, doesn't... they're going to be running Diego Chara out there until 2036. And it's probably going to work. It still works. I love that the St. Louis game was the start of their downfall this season. They looked like a defensive powerhouse before that game. Bro, they're about to fire their coach. I don't know that, but like I did see rumblings of that just on Twitter of people who like cover that team. They're about to blow it up, I think. I think Olaf, God bless him. He might be out of there like 8 weeks. It's my thing with St. Louis is it's like I've said it before, but you can play cynical, you can play troll ball, but if you're going to do that, you have to have the results that come with it, or at least better results than they have been getting. And really, like they're not preventing goals right now either. So I think just based on what I've seen, Olaf is heavily on notice as the next coach that we might see depart in Major League Soccer. And then I don't know what St. Louis does from there. It feels like they had that magical beginning of life to MLS and haven't quite been able to recapture it. Obviously, this season's not going well. They might fire their coach. But I think you're right, Pat. The Seattle game was kind of the start of their downfall. Going into that game, I remember talking to Jake from Ball Watching about it. I remember being like, they're playing troll ball actually quite effectively right now. They're not really getting scored on. ever since the Seattle game, it's kind of spiraled. So being the start of a team's downfall, that's always a good time. Yeah, if he won the Open Cup game, he might have had a chance. Like if they could have like kept making a run at a trophy. But things are tough for them right now. Who's on downfall watch? Besides the obvious, which the obvious is Inter Miami and Atlanta United. Charlotte FC heavily on downfall watch. They started off the season so well. I wonder I'm going to have to get the top in 90 guys on here. Explain to me what's going on with Charlotte FC. I think the biggest downfall watch right now is it's all in the East. Well, I guess St. Louis. What St. Louis did they switch to the West, or am I thinking of Nashville? I don't know. St. Louis is definitely on downfall watch. Atlanta's on downfall watch. Inter Miami's on downfall watch. The Galaxy's downfall has already happened, so they're not even on watch. They're averaging a nice little 0.29, which is still crazy to me. I mean, Noah and I talked about it last week when he was on Under the Lights, but there's no way that 0-10-4 makes sense. A negative 21. Yeah, Hunch Punch. I mean, Atlanta, I don't know why. It's interesting. Why do I love the Atlanta downfall so much? I think it's because I feel like they got a little too big for their britches early in their MLS existence. You can't just take over the league like that and win MLS Cup in your second year without consequences. You can't. Galaxy is just a meme club. They are this season. That's the thing, man, is like they've put the theory to the test that like selling out for the ring is justified in all counts. That like they have actually pushed that to a point where I'm like, I don't know if this was worth it, which is crazy to say. Like I never once have questioned that when a championship club has taken a step back. They are testing it. The Garth Lagerwey, Chris Henderson villain arc. Yeah, but like I don't have anything like I don't have any reason or inclination to root against the Garth Chris duo. They work for a club that I enjoy watching spiral. But as far as them themselves, like I got no ill will. I got no reason to root against them at all. I guess anytime like a big market, big money team with a bunch of expectations and that just spent $30 million in transfers, anytime they start spiraling, it's fun. By the way, if Seattle ever started truly spiraling, I would expect nothing less from the fans and fan bases of other clubs than to. A lot of people prey on Seattle's downfall. They do. Rightfully. It's fair. There just hasn't been like a real downfall yet. The closest thing I think was the 2022 regular season, but they won Champions League that year. I legitimately, it was interesting because I think we all kind of felt at the time, especially with the JP injury in the CCC final, like, okay, the regular season could be tough. And then once I was actually like in the heat of that regular season downfall, I never questioned if it was worth it. But that wasn't a great time. But anyone who had anything to say about it, you had the Champions League card to pull. So there wasn't much that could be said. If Seattle ever actually has a downfall, I'm going to have a lot of Atlanta United fans and LA Galaxy fans in our chat in all likelihood. This is an interesting point, Jake. I feel like people acted like Garth and Chris were the only things that made the Sounders great. They don't seem to be getting it done with a blank checkbook. I think it's so interesting. Garth in particular, I would say rightfully got a lot of credit for the work that he did in Seattle in helping build up those teams. The team that won Champions League. Team that hosted and won MLS Cup in 2019. It was considered the best like front office duo in MLS. Garth is still, I don't know if his reputation has changed at all, but he's still considered the best executive in the league by some measures. Was he just riding coattails? He has a successful track record also at Real Salt Lake, so I don't think so. But what I think is interesting is that, Garth, he always projects this air of confidence. He's the most confident guy in the room, any room that he's in. He's not going to say stuff that he doesn't fully think. He's an analytical guy. He's a lawyer. He's not going to say stuff that he doesn't fully think there's credence behind, right? So when he got out there and was doing, he was man about towning. He was like Will Kuntz on the Cooligans doing like the big media, preseason media tour. And I looked back at some of these quotes and all his quotes are like, he literally, well, last year when they signed Marinchuk, he said, "We're back, baby. We're back, baby. Atlanta United's back. We signed Alexei Marinchuk. We're rebuilding this thing. We're going to take over again. We're back." But there's a lot of quotes too beyond that are just like, we have sacrificed some equity with how the results have gone in recent years. It's on us to earn that back, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Actions speak louder than words, and we're going to go out there and we're going to earn this fan base back. And we feel confident that we have the group to do it. He even said stuff like, our new approach has had its time to take hold now. The team that we were playing with before that wasn't getting the results, that wasn't our team. That was a different team. This is our team. We're going to go out there and tear it up this year. That's basically what he's saying. He didn't have to say that. He could have said, we're pretty confident in the moves that we've made. We're really excited about getting to bring in a player like Latte Loth. We're really excited about getting to bring Miguel Almiron back. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Like, we still have to prove it. We still have to show that the moves that we made are the right moves, and we don't know that yet. So I'm not going to make any predictions, but I feel good. He could have said more like that. No, he said, "We're back, baby." He said, "We're back. Atlanta United is primed to take over." And then it's gone like really far off the rails. He also made a big thing about how Ronnie Dyla was like the first coach he's ever gotten to hire. He inherited Schmetzer. He inherited whoever it was at Real Salt Lake. Was that Jason Kreis? You have to hype your boys, but like, he hyped him so much. I think that's part of why I bought into the Atlanta United hype over the offseason. I was like, all right, Garth knows what he's talking about. If he's saying they're going to be this good, then they probably are. One of my takeaways from it is that I don't think Garth and Chris were a fraudulent duo. I don't think that they had like nothing to do with Seattle's success. I do think that their success was probably helped by organizational infrastructure and the foundation that was in place, which Chris predated Garth. So he deserves credit for establishing that. But there might have been more, that might have played more into Seattle's success during those years than we were thinking. I think someone was saying earlier, but it was like the narrative was that not all, but like Seattle's success was predominantly derived from this like big brained duo of Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson. Will Seattle be able to succeed without them? Who knows? They're losing two of the best and brightest minds. I think all of that it's not that it's inaccurate, but we perhaps might have underestimated the role that Seattle's strength as an organization played into that. I don't know. That's the only explanation that I can think of for how much success they had prior to going to Atlanta. And then, not just that they've had trouble replicating it, but this season has gone like way off the rails down there. They can't even win a game right now. So, I don't know. Ravi hasn't been great elsewhere either. He just got hired by the Galaxy, so. Or maybe he had been there, but he got a new role. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they just brought him on. Ravi is one where you can't argue with the track record. That guy's one of the most, he's considered, at least by people who know this stuff, like one of the most cutting edge, foremost thinkers in the game. Like anywhere in any league. He's that highly regarded. So I don't know. Saw Noah at the Portland game by himself. He looked like a lost puppy. Where'd you see him? Was he on the field shooting video? Or was he just walking around? He was down there getting some footage. The footage that he got of the Albert Rusnak goal is actually on our Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. Please. We're closing in on 500 followers, and we put up some good content up there. As Hunch Punch said in chat, everyone, I forgot to do this at the top of the show, but please like the video right now. If you have yet to like the video. Let's see if we can get this one to 50. At the security gate. Got you. I might not have been there at that point. We got some great footage. I'm excited for you guys to see our little vlog / mini doc that we're gonna put out on the with the Portland trip. It's gonna be a lot like our Tacoma Defiance one, but it could be even better. We didn't have our video guy there, like our official video guy there, but we did have Colton there filming, and he got a lot of good footage. And we just knew what we were trying to do a little bit more. The Tacoma one, we were flying by the seat of our pants a little bit. This one, we were like, okay, this is what we're going to shoot. We're just going to film a lot, as much as possible. And then what we do is we give it to our video guy, Eric, shout out Eric. And we say, do cool stuff. And then he does. And it looks like a freaking like HBO style documentary. It's great. Excited for that to come out. But yeah, like the video. Sub to the channel. Night, Eric. Yeah, I'm about to start wrapping it up here as well. So you guys know what time it is. You already know. It's lo-fi. Gonna start wrapping it up as I hit 2.5 hours here, but if you guys got any last topics, questions, agendas, observations, grievances, go ahead and drop them in chat. Try to hit some before I get out of here. Thank you all, as always, for tuning into Under the Lights. Good turnout tonight. Under the Lights sometimes. It's more the sicko crowd, but I feel like we had some more people in here than usual, so appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Drop us a sub, drop us a like. We are out here every single week covering the ever-living daylights out of the Seattle Sounders and Major League Soccer as a whole. I saw there was a Galaxy fan in here earlier. That's great. We love it when people from other fan bases show up, especially to talk trash. We welcome it. Welcome opposing fans, dissenting viewpoints, differing narratives than our own. Sounders have a solid organization. I think Garth and Chris have something special. They can be that extra 10 to 15%, but they don't operate from the same baseline that any GM does at Seattle. I agree with all that, but it's like, I don't know. What do you think, chat? Chat, if you had to put your finger on why Atlanta United is in the situation that they're in, what would you say? They got it all. They got the Garth and Chris duo. They got Arthur Blank. Arthur Blank is the chillest owner in MLS that I've ever seen. We talk a lot about broke Hanauer, right? You know what Arthur Blank does? Whenever his club brass come to him and they say, Mr. Blank, we really want to sign this guy, but it's going to cost this much money. Can we have it? You know what he says? He says, hell yeah. I don't give a shit. I'm Arthur Blank. You think $22 million means a thing to me? It absolutely does not. It's like a $1 bill to me. Yeah, go buy him. Latte Loth, you want him? 22 million? Here it is. That's what that. God, that would be sick. But like, if you have that, how do you end up with 2 wins through match day 15? If you gave me Arthur Blank money, I could build an MLS roster that could get 7th in the East. I could make it above the playoff line with that money. I actually probably really couldn't. You got to have like a special type of mind to be able to build an MLS roster. But the point is, a duo that's had as much success as that, you would think would be able to do it, no question. It's one of the more fascinating like disconnects I've seen in MLS between resources and not living up to it. I think the best theory I have on it, it's not really my theory. We were talking about this. Actually, we put up a video clip of a video of this discussion that we pulled from our live stream when we were on with J.O. And he used the term, I think, like over-resourced. I think there might be something to that. It's like when you have a blank check, it kind of can make you do things that you maybe shouldn't because you feel like it's so high percentage that it like clouds your judgment, if that makes sense. Blank check isn't the same thing as the behemoth that is the Sounders organization. I would say, though, Garth took over before Seattle even won one MLS Cup. He took over in 2015. So, like, it wasn't as behemoth-like back then. It became a behemoth in that period of time. So I don't know. Four matches left: Dallas, San Diego, Minnesota, and Vancouver, all at home, ending 1 week before Club World Cup starts. It's coming up, guys. It is coming up. The Club World Cup is coming up. We will see how it goes. I'm ready for anything. I'm ready for a bloodbath. I'm ready for a Cinderella run. I'm ready for Nuhu to play against PSG. I'm ready for Jesus Ferreira to not score a goal until the Club World Cup and then score one in the Club World Cup. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it all. Ego management in the case of Atlanta United, I think is what you're referring to. Yeah. Someone should study it. We need an in-depth scientific study on the downfall of Atlanta United. All right. I'm going to call it right there, guys. Thank you again, as always, so much for tuning into the show. Really appreciate the support and all of you tuning in each and every week, each and every day sometimes, with how hard we've been going. I like with this Portland trip this last weekend, I got to like my day 4.5 of content, and I was like, this is a lot. But I love it. It's awesome. How much growth we've seen with the show, and people seeming to enjoy it. That motivates us. We're going to keep going. And we've got the biggest stretch of the season coming up here between the Sounders trying to climb up the table. They're in like 6th right now, but the table's a cluster. Got a bunch of home games coming up, so if they can get hot here, they'll climb up the table. So you got that. And then you got Club World Cup. So the content, it's going to keep going. We'll be back at it with a post-game live, I think, on Saturday. That might be a play-it-by-ear type situation, but follow me on Blue Sky if you haven't. I'll let you guys know exactly when that's happening. We'll try and get it as close to final whistle as possible. Might be a little bit after that, but I'll let you guys know. Like the video, subscribe, rate 5 stars, write reviews, follow us on Instagram, and we will see you guys on Saturday for post-game live and the call-in show. Definitely call in, lay down takes with us on Saturday after the game, win or loss. We'll be there. All right. See you guys then. Don't want to give money to the oligarchs, but love lobbing scorchers? Do we have a deal for you? MLS Season Pass is back on Apple TV with access to every single MLS match, including Leagues Cup and the entire Audi MLS Cup playoffs with no blackouts. It's not just the games, you get total access to the pre- and post-match MLS 360 whip-around show in both English and Spanish, and get live look-ins and highlights from around the league, as well as full match replays and recaps. Now, you can support our show by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV to purchase your subscription and support our show.
lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV. Please, don't let the oligarchs win.